Hi, it's Alex Cosper with another SAC TV Riverside Chat at the American River. And today I want to reflect on my high school, which is on the river. In fact, Rio Americano in Spanish is the equivalent to the English American River. So it's the 60th anniversary in November of the JFK assassination. You might wonder what else happened in 1963 in Sacramento. Well, my high school, Rio Americano, was established that year. So that was the year it opened. And my other high school, John F. Kennedy High, that opened in 1967, 4 years later. So that was an early tribute to the president, but there had been other high schools around the United States named after President Kennedy. So walking eastbound alongside the American River on the levee, we turned this way, we see the American River, and when we turn this way we see Rio Americano High. I graduated in 1980. Here's another view of the high school and the river. Not a far walk. It takes less than a few minutes to get to the river. But I think these days they have the fence locked up so you cannot access the river from the high school, at least during school hours. Some of the famous people who came out of this high school include Debbie Meyer, who was an Olympic swim medalist back in the 1960s, late 1960s. Barbie Benton went here in the 60s, and she ended up on the TV show Hee Haw. So she became a regular on that show for a while. She was also what you would call the partner of Hugh Hefner without getting married. Hugh Hefner, the head owner, founder of Playboy magazine. And so she was a Playboy model. Channing Dungey, she became the president of ABC TV programming for a while, earlier this century. And then went on to become an executive for ex-President Obama's Netflix TV series. I DJ'd Channing's wedding back in the 2000s. Channing's younger sister, Merrin Dungey, also went to Rio Americano. Merrin was also someone who ended up in the TV industry, did lots of TV appearances and films, and she was my intern at KRAT back in 1989 while she attended Rio. Jane Sibbett is another actress who made it big in Hollywood, coming out of KRAT. She was my classmate back in 1979. And she was actually the music director of KRAT, and that's kind of where I first learned about how radio stations do their formatting. And she ended up playing in TV roles such as Herman's Head, and then Friends, the #1 TV show of the 1990s. She was on that show, and she went on to do films and other things, and ran her own production company for a while. Another success story out of Rio was Marc Tarpening, who ended up being the co-founder of Tesla, the company we think of today that Elon Musk runs. The electric vehicle company was actually started by two other people. One was Marc Tarpening from Rio, and his partner was Martin Eberhard, and they went to UC Berkeley, got involved in engineering, software, and eventually they founded Tesla in 2003, And then the following year, Elon Musk joined as an investor, and eventually Elon became CEO in 2008. Looking back on my high school years, I think my best class was public speaking, taught by Chuck Gebhardt. He also taught the radio and TV class, and this was the class that had KRAT, the TV and radio station, in which Jane Sibbett was the music director, and several other media people went through KRAT that ended up working in local radio and television and beyond. Now, my favorite topic has often been U.S. history, but back then I didn't have a great history class. At first I did. Mr. Hooper was pretty smart, and I learned a lot from him, but he suddenly disappeared one day, and they replaced him with an assistant football coach or something like that who didn't know history. In fact, I knew more about it than he did. He got up in front of the class one day and tried to say that Alexander Hamilton, the guy on the $10 bill, was a U.S. president. Now, I could see how some people get mixed up. They think everyone on a bill is a president. Like some people think Ben Franklin was a president, but he wasn't. So not everyone on money was a U.S. president. And I knew this since third grade, so I raised my hand and said, no, Alexander Hamilton was never a U.S. president. He was a U.S. Secretary of Treasury, in fact, the first one, and he set up the banking system that we're involved with today, or at least he laid out the groundwork for it. Now, the 2015 musical called Hamilton, based on his life, didn't get all the facts right. A lot of people are confused that Hamilton was someone who freed the slaves or fought to free slaves, and that's not exactly the truth. It didn't happen in his lifetime. He died from a duel, a gun duel, and that's sad because we think of leaders back then as heroes, like founding fathers, but they actually suffered from the dementia of thinking that arrogance and gunfire could solve problems. It just didn't. That's how he got killed. His son was also killed 3 years earlier in a same kind of duel. But another son of Alexander Hamilton, William Hamilton, is actually buried in Sacramento. That's kind of what makes history interesting, how local history connects with national history, which connects with world history. And so, yeah, William Hamilton came to Sacramento. He had been a politician in Illinois and Wisconsin, like he was on the Illinois state legislature, and then came to California in 1849 because of the gold rush. So he wound up in the Sacramento area, but only lived a year after that, unfortunately, because like a lot of people who came to the Sacramento area at that time, he caught cholera, which is a disease that spreads through infected food or water, and he possibly drank water from the American River that was contaminated. So that should be a lesson in history. Don't drink the water in the river. Now, the way the musical Hamilton changed history is that musical came at a time when Congress was considering changing the $10 bill so that Alexander Hamilton, William's dad, wasn't going to be on there anymore, and they were going to put a woman on there, possibly Harriet Tubman or someone who contributed to women's suffrage of the 1920s. But that all changed with the popularity of the musical Hamilton, ironically, because a lot of people assume or presume that Alexander Hamilton was someone who fought to end slavery, and that's not quite history. He actually purchased slaves for others, and some historical accounts say that he himself was a slave owner. He was definitely an aristocrat who believed that the President of the United States should be like a king and serve for life. I guess my main point is I love history, especially how it pertains to Sacramento, local history. And I would encourage other people in other cities to do history chats about their cities after doing a lot of research. Like, that's what I do. Most of my work since leaving radio in 2007 has been writing for various businesses and doing reports and, writing blogs for their websites, and just a lot of remote work that allows me to have this free time to make these videos. All right, the American River, beautiful place. What's interesting about the history of music is you could look at a certain year and tie it in with events that happened that year, just as kind of like a scrapbook for your mind. Like one of the biggest hits of 1963 toward the end of the year was Louie Louie by the Kingsmen. And that song then led into Beatlemania, which hit in January of 1964. And so those songs are like time markers in history, because America was shocked by the assassination of President Kennedy in November 1963. So that was 60 years ago. I guess in a future episode, I want to talk about how the Kingsmen came to Sacramento. So all these things kind of are puzzle pieces that fit into Sacramento's story. The Kingsmen came to Sacramento in 1964, opening for the Beach Boys. That was the night the Beach Boys recorded a legendary live album from the Memorial Auditorium. That'll do it for another Riverside Chat. Let's meet again soon.